Hello. Welcome to Free Spirit Kitchen. It's been way too long. And it's such a beautiful day. A nice crispy fall day, but it's sunny. So I do want to get outside and go for a ride. A little quick ride just out in the back. Just to get both horses' blood moving a little bit. And my own. But before I go out, I'm going to start this video. It's going to be the way I make homemade pizza. And it does need to sit for a while after I get the dough ready. So I'm going to begin with that. I'm going to leave it sitting in a slightly warmed up oven. It's already turned off, so it's just going to be a bit above room temperature. I'm going to let the dough rise for a while. Then when I come back, we'll be ready to do the rest of the video and make some amazing pizza. So I'm excited because the longer you can just let it be, the better it's going to come out. So let's start with the equipment. I have a postage scale, I should say, not a meter. It's a scale. But it's pretty good in the kitchen. I've been using it for grams and for ounces. Seems to be pretty accurate. So, we're going to weigh out our flour. And all of the recipes that I have worked with and conglomerated have said to weigh your dough as opposed to just measuring it in a cup. Because it depends on the quality and the fineness of the dough, etc., or the fineness and the quality of the flour, etc. So, for pizza recipes, my favorite is to use Tipo 00 flour, which is a really nice soft wheat flour. It's very fine, and it's from Italy. It is from Napoli, and we are going to be making the pizza from Napoli, the famous Neapolitan style pizza. So that's the crust we'll be making. We're going to be using the Tipo 00 flour, some salt, some yeast, and some warm water. And it's proportions that make this so good. Very simple, very few ingredients, but then you put the love into it. You have to knead it and love it and then let it rest. So let's get started. Later when we form the pizzas, I'll tell you a little bit more about each of the types of toppings that we're going to use today. So let's start with flour. Okay, now I'm going to make 2 pizzas, and each of the balls, each of the individual pizzas is going to be 200 grams. So you just plug this information, the style of pizza that you want, how many pizzas you're going to make, and how big each of the dough balls will be. And there's beautiful calculators. Just research pizza dough calculator and you'll find one you can just plug in your information and come out with the correct proportions depending on what style of pizza you're making. So for this one we need 238 grams of flour. So let's put on the scale. And I think it's going to be fitting in this. So I'm going to put the bowl on. And it's going to give me a weight. Then I'm going to zero it out again. And now I'm going to weigh 238 grams. Caputo. is not perfectly accurate, but close enough. So here we have this lovely light and fluffy flower. Super, super soft. Imported flour, which I get through Amazon. So, and you can use all-purpose flour. Bread flour, not so much, but all-purpose flour also works. So, I'm going to put that into the bowl. And next we're going to put it back to 0. And we're going to use 155 milliliters of warm water. So, I have some heated water from the kettle that I'm going to add to this to make the exact amount, 155. So, this is 150 right there. So we're going to eyeball it a bit more. Here on this side, you can see it. It's almost at 150 now, so I'm going to put a little bit of this to the side. I just did not want to start with water that's too hot. So, here's some more water to add. And we'll just put it a hair over the 150. A tiny bit more. I'm going to leave this warm water on the side in case you need a tiny bit more. It'll be just the right temperature by then. So, 150 and a tiny bit over. I made a mess. Very good. And the last thing I'm going to measure is the salt. And for this proportion, we're going to use 7 grams of salt. I'm going to measure this onto just a piece of paper. It'll be fine. It doesn't even register. I'll put 7.5. Seems like a lot of salt, but it really is the only flavor in the recipe. Okay, so that was 8. Take a pinch. I think I need to clean this a little bit. It's bumping between. Okay, let's 0 out for a sec. 0. I used to work in a lab, you know. Still saying 10. Okay, definitely not as accurate as a triple beam, but I don't have one of those at home. So now I'm just going to fold it in a U and sprinkle it into the flour and turn it off, because the only thing that's left is the yeast, and it's extremely light, and I could not accurately measure on that scale. In fact, I messed up my last batch because I was under the belief that I had enough yeast, but I did not. So, the proportion on this recipe calls for 1/2 gram of yeast, which is a very small amount. It comes out to less than 1/2 teaspoon, but I'm going to use 1/2 teaspoon because I'm pretty sure I misread it last time and I added 1/2 teaspoon. It came out perfect, so I'm going to going to pour a little bit of the warm water, and you just want to test it, that it's warm, like you would give a baby's bottle. Not too hot. You don't want to kill the yeast. I'm going to use a half teaspoon. I'll pour the water. I'm going to use a little bit of it. Just going to stir it. And this one is active dry yeast, so you don't have to do this. See if it does create a little bit of a foam after a few minutes in warm water. And just let that sit there for a bit. So salt, yeast, flour, and water. That's it. Now other types of pizza dough, like Sicilian, will add also a little bit of oil and sometimes a little bit of sugar, because it comes out a little bit thicker and somewhat breadier maybe. Alright, that looks pretty good. So I have extra water here that's going to go in with the dough. And the yeast. And the flour. And salt. You don't want to necessarily put the yeast with the salt. You can actually add a little tiny bit of sugar to the yeast to make it happy, but I'm not going to. This looks pretty good. Alright, now we get our hands in. I have washed my hands. They just always look terrible. It comes from being a tomboy. Okay, so that's a little bit of a mix right there. And I'm going to add the yeast. And get my hands down in there. And I'm going to put the rest of the water. Drizzle that in. I put a little bit of flour in at a time from the sides. It's getting shadowy in here. I thought it was a lot earlier in the day. Okay, so water, the yeast, the flour, and salt are all in here. And now you may think this is a gloppy, goopy mess, and it is. This flour is very fine, and it will start absorbing all the liquid while staying nice and soft. So I'm just going to be rolling it around and working all of this dough off my fingers back into the mix. It's almost picked up all of the bits. Don't worry about your fingers, just keep going. See how soft it is? Just give it a minute. Always add more flour if you need to, but you want it to be nice and silky soft and workable, but not sticky. So let's just keep rolling around the bowl a little bit more, flattening it on the bottom and lifting. Oops. And then I am going to work on the countertop because it's a lot more space. Okay. Very mushy. Alright. And now I am going to put a little tiny bit of flour on that. I usually keep a little extra bowl so I don't have to get my goopy fingers all over the bag. So I'm mostly putting it on the bowl so I can pick up as much as I need. And now it's sticking to the bowl. Just put a little bit more flour, not too much. It has to be nice and soft to rise. Almost time to clean my hands off. Okay. Beautiful. And I'm not even going to clean this bowl because we're going to use it to let the dough rest. Look at that. Put a tiny bit of flour here on the work area. All right. Cut the sleeves up past the elbow. And here we go. Time for the love. Oh, this is a beauty. This one's going to be fantastic. So, I'm using the heel of my hand just to push it away. Oh, don't worry if it's a little bit sticky. Just put a little bit more flour under there. Put a tiny bit on your hand. See? That's okay. Keep working with it. The worst thing is when it's too dry because it's really hard to get the moisture right after that. So I've almost picked up all of the flour. That's sticky on the surface, just on my hands a little bit, but not much. So I'm just going to keep going. It gets a little more dry after you work with it for a bit. Tiny bit more. I'm only using about a tablespoon or so at a time, maybe a little bit more. Not too much. I want it to stay just as nice and soft as it is. It's just not so sticky. Okay, here we go. Push it away, fold it towards you, push it away, and fold it. Push it away and fold it. Yep. Little by little, as you need flour. Don't overdo it. Just keep rolling it out. Oh yeah. A little love going in this one. Beauty. Oh, yeah. I think I love your food. Nice. Okay, so one last time. Two things are for certain when I start cooking. The cat that snores has the best nap of his life right close to me. And the dogs have to come and get water. Not to mention the neighbor comes out a little boy and ride this bike, but that's okay. Oh, beautiful. Nice, soft, stretchy, silky. This should rise very well. Roll it wide and then fold it. Roll it and then fold it. Okay. I usually give it at least 5 to 10 minutes of attention. Just making sure proportions feel right. Not too sticky, but still not dry. It's not sticking to me anymore. See that? It's just, yep, it's just perfect. Now, that's not to say that there aren't better ways to do this, that there aren't more traditional ways, or I don't really know, but this is the style I learned, and it's always worked pretty well, and much better now that I started with the Tipo 00 flour. Trust me, oh my gosh, so much lighter, and I don't know, delicious. And I don't get all like bloated feeling from eating pizza. So I know the wheat, imported wheat, seems to be less screwed around with. Yummy. Oh, by the way, did I mention these are going to be vegan? I haven't told you what we're going to make for the topping. Okay, this baby feels super good. So I'm going to form it into a ball, turn it out onto itself from the middle to the end, and just tucking it under in the back. Oops. Tucking it under as I go. Making a rounded dome. Look at that. Oh, that's a good one. Okay. I'm going to place it in here like me. Like so. Put a little hand towel over it to keep it from getting dry. Now some people will put olive oil in the bowl or on the dough, but I'm going to do it just like this. So put it down a little bit just to displace some of the air. But that should double. It should rise pretty well even within an hour. So now this is going to go into the oven that I barely turned on till I heard the heat kick in, and then I turned it off and closed the door. So it should be just warmer than room temperature probably. So here goes. Okay. That baby's gonna rest in that beautiful, nice warm oven. I'm gonna clean this up a little bit, and later I'll show you everything else that we're gonna be using. But for now, I am going to go outside and enjoy a beautiful afternoon. Well, I'm back. As it turns out, there's a little bit more to the story. Well, I told you I was going out to ride. Oh, and it was so beautiful. It was a beautiful sunny day. No wind. The horses were relaxed. I gave them a good grooming. Went for a little ride. stayed out a little bit longer. Anyway, the day got away from me in a very good way. And when I came back into the house, the lighting was terrible in here. I really don't like to use too much artificial light, and it creates all kinds of weird changes in the colors. So I thought, well, maybe I'll just let the dough rise and do it tomorrow. Yeah. Well, that was a pretty good idea, because with pizza dough, it's like the longer you let it rise and rest, well, rise, this particular recipe, the longer you leave it, the better it is. So I decided, okay, well, we'll wait till the morning. So you're supposed to keep it room temperature. So I covered it with some plastic wrap. And then I put the tea towel back on. And then I placed it on a nice warm pot holder. And I surrounded it with tea towels so it would stay nice and warm, because it does get chilly in this room. And I did a peek on it before I went to bed, and it was nice and doubled up and looked very good. So I just left it here to the side. Only this morning, as I came out to check on everything, it seems that a certain little cat decided that this was super cozy. And as you can imagine, it got a little flattened. Jeez. Oy. So I put it in a barely warm oven for about an hour this morning, and it's revived itself, and I'm sure it'll be fine. Let's see. So it's going to be a little stickier because I didn't put any oil in the bowl. Take off the plastic. And you can see, maybe you can, how the edge got deflated. It's like a double-decker that fell in. And there's the nice little, two little paw prints. Boom, boom. It's still quite soft and lovely, so it's going to be fine. Time to roll up the sleeves. So, before we get to all these other ingredients here, we are going to work with this dough a little bit more. I'll just take my time getting it out of this bowl, because it's a little sticky on the edges now. It's okay. Just gently pulling it towards me, and it's not even sticking to me. It smells good. Okay. Yeah. It's gonna be fine. My goodness, I had layers over it. So I don't have any cat hair. Good God. It seems like it's the work of Margot, who loves comfort of little places to snuggle down into. However, I think it would be more damaged if it had been her. She's the heaviest one. So, the only one that really gets up on the counter is Biscuit, the and that makes all the noise. So look, see how nice this is still? Nice and stretchy, still moist, a little sticky. So I do have a little bit of flour. Back again to the work surface for a minute. Just a little bit of flour. I love this stretchy consistency. It's very strong, but it's stretchable. So it's going to make a nice pizza. But first I'm going to knead it just a bit. Get all the air out. And then we're going to divide it in two and form the balls. And then let them rest while we take care of the toppings. Don't really need any more of the flour. This feels very nice. Silky soft, stretchy, easy to work, still moist. Okay. That feels pretty even. Now I'm just gonna cut it down the middle. Here we go. Beautiful. This one looks smaller. And out of curiosity, let's see how close I got to 200 grams each. Pizza number one. Excuse me, do you see that? 200, exactly. Let's see. Pizza number two. Start at 0. Ready? 210. Well, yay. Pretty darn good. It's just nice to know the proportions work, no matter how many you want to make. If you plug in that formula, it's going to likely be good. Okay, so now I'm going to make the balls. And the way you do it is to work it from the middle to the outside and tucking under as you go. So it's stretching like a skin over the insides. Okay? Folding it over itself and tucking it in until it's just perfect. smooth. Stretched. Into a beautiful ball of dough. Nice and light. I'm going to put that on the bottom. There. Second one wants to form itself already. Alright, so I'm going to stretch. Gently tucking it under, just nice and softly. It's like a turtle shell, but we're making it very soft on top. Soft. Very smooth. Okay. Now, pizza number 2. Place that here. Cover them with the plastic again to keep them from getting too dry. Okay. All right, I'm going to put this to the side. And I've got the oven turned on. I use a pizza stone, which is in the oven before you turn it on, because you don't want to put the pizza stone into a very hot oven. It has to heat up at the same time. So it's already in there, and I've got the oven all the way up just under broil, so it's at 500 degrees, which is not hot enough really for a true good pizza. However, the pizza stone really helps a lot. And to make it easier, I'll be using a non-stick foil here on the counter when I shape the pizza base before it goes into the oven. So that way I can just slide it on the stone on top of the foil and move it around as it's cooking. And it doesn't change the temperature at all from underneath. So that's my little tip that I've learned, because I don't have a peel to slide it, to use a cornmeal and slide it onto the stone. So that's done. Okay. Alright, now we're going to make 2 toppings. And because we are making the Neapolitan style dough, the Neapolitan style dough originating in Naples, we will make one of the pizzas a margherita pizza. Margherita pizza also originated in Naples, which is in the southwest area of Italy. They say that pizza margherita recipe was invented in 1889 in honor of Margherita of Savoy, the Queen of Italy, by Chef Raphael Esposito of the Brandy Pizzeria, with ingredients representing the colors of the Italian flag. Several scholars believe that its origins are far older and that its name comes from the flower daisy, margherita in Italian, because of the way the mozzarella was laid out. So, we don't know for sure. But the margherita pizza will have tomatoes, as well as a little of the sauce that comes in here with the whole tomatoes, mozzarella, and we will be using a vegan brand that my friend told me about, which is really, really good. I'm very picky about vegan cheese. I'd rather skip it than have one that just feels like rubber, just doesn't have good flavor. But this one is very good. Miyoko's Creamery. And it's organic and lactose-free, palm oil-free, gluten-free, soy-free, non-GMO, all the stuff. But the way I make, but the thing I like the most is that it actually does melt. It's nice. It says that it melts, it bubbles, it browns, and it slices. Perfect for pizza and caprese. And it's all plant-based. So, not too processed, I guess. I actually have made vegan mozzarella that is sliceable and somewhat meltable. And it's from, there's so many recipes on the internet, but it has, it's made from cashews. So, and it's very easy and quick, and you use tapioca flour as a thickening agent, and then you put it in cold water in balls of cheese to firm up. It's quite nice. So maybe I'll make that on another video, but today we're going to use this one. So we're going to have the red, the white, and the green as we put basil leaves on each of the pieces of mozzarella to make the margherita. The second pizza is going to be pesto. Pesto originated in Genoa, Italy, with a dish called pesto alla Genovese. And that sauce traditionally contains pine nuts, crushed garlic, coarse salt, basil leaves, olive oil, and a hard cheese such as Parmigiano Reggiano. So, I am going to use the tried and true vegan cheese substitute for so many things, nutritional yeast. So that'll help to thicken it up a bit too. And it may not be the exact same flavor, but I wanted to try it. So I will be crushing the garlic before putting it in the food processor so that it's very well integrated into the sauce, because it will be raw. Okay, I'm excited. So, to prepare for the margherita pizza, I basically just need to open the can of tomatoes and pour it into a bowl so I can separate the whole tomatoes from the sauce. So we will put a little sauce down, and then some chunky tomato, if I can slice it, and then the basil, and And last, cheese on both of them. So the pesto is going to be a very rich topping. And so I'm thinking of trying to shred the cheese for that one. Make it a little bit lighter. So I'm going to start by opening this can. Got my sleeves rolled up and I'm ready to cook. And yes, for pasta, homemade pasta, and homemade pizza, I love working with the San Marzano imported Italian tomatoes. It's a little commercial for them. Yes, they're special. They are grown. Okay, here's the little map. Alright, here's Italy. Here's Sicily. And here is Mount Vesuvius. And this is the area where the San Marzano tomatoes are grown. And it says, distinct in flavor, these San Marzano tomatoes are grown in the Sarnese Nocerino area of Italy, renowned for its especially fruitful soil as a result of its proximity to Mount Vesuvius. These San Marzano tomatoes are certified by an independent third-party agency and are produced with the proper method to ensure superior quality. And you can even use the scan the barcode here. You can trace your can to find the field that your tomatoes came from. I have never done that, but that's pretty cool. All right. So there's a rich sauce, almost a paste, but not quite. And a lot of whole tomatoes. And you can cook these down. You can puree it. You can use just the back sauce as is. You can add garlic and vegetables and let it slow cook and concentrate. But for margherita pizza, I like that very bold tomato flavor. So, if you have fresh tomatoes from the garden, I would slice them, put a tiny dab of olive oil, and put them on a grill or a hot griddle and sort of caramelize them a little bit and then put them on the pizza. Oh yeah, they're very good. Okay, now let's see. So we'll just be picking some leaves of basil and portioning some cheese, and I will wait till we're ready to make the pizza to use the sauce and cut the tomatoes so we don't handle them too much. And meanwhile, let's make the pesto. Need some of this. I love this olive oil. Organic, extra virgin, first cold press from Carapelli. I think that's how you pronounce it. And it has organic ingredients sourced. The olives are sourced from a few different countries, and they have the coating on here. So these came from Portugal, Italy, Tunisia, and Greece. Certified organic. Nice flavor. Okay, let's bring over the food processor. So I have a mini version because I don't make huge portions, and it works perfectly. Now, I'm going to use 1 cup of pine nuts. These are just packaged pine nuts, they're not cooked. And I'm going to use about a cup of basil leaves. Thank you, plant. I've been growing this in the kitchen for a while. Just taking little leaves here and there. But pesto may be the end of you, my girl. Let's see. I do like to get the most out of these things if I buy them at the grocery store. Pinching the tops off so we keep on blowing out the sides. And this one's pretty strong. It's a great flavor. I want at least a cup, kind of loosely packed. Take a lot of these little ones down here. It is so windy today and so loud. I kept waiting and waiting to do this video. I kept waiting and waiting to do this video. I hope it's not too loud in the background. But pizza dough needs to be used. And I am craving some pizza. I will say that I, most of the time, will knead the dough like I did the first day or yesterday. And then I'll let it rise and rest for like an hour or two. And then I'll just punch it down, divide it into the two, make balls, and let it rest for like another hour. And then I cook it. And it's just fine. I just was trying to be fancy. Let it go longer. But I think it'll be fine. And I think the lighting is better, don't you? A little shadowy. Not too bad. Whenever possible, I like natural light. Alright, maybe a few more. I also want to save some big leaves to put around the top of the margherita pizza. So, I think that's about it. I think I'm going to take some of these pine nuts out because my proportions are going to be a little off. I'm going to use like 3/4 of a cup and a cup of basil leaves. And the recipe calls for 5 cloves of garlic. These are huge. I have 4. I may only use 3. So I'm using less basil. Okay. It's a good day to cook. It's comforting when it's super windy, dust flying out there. Sort of puts me in a bad mood. So cooking is my happy place when I can't be outside. And I'm so glad I went riding yesterday. I would have missed that beautiful day and regretted it. So, this pizza should be a good reward for following good instincts. There we are. Alright. And now we're going to squeeze these babies. And I'm going to cut it in half first. These cloves won't even fit. And trim the ends off. And cut it in half. And squeeze. These aren't the best devices, but it's the smallest thing I have. Put the other half in there. Now again. Alright, and the rest can go in there in more or less bigger pieces because it is a food processor. Now we just have some salt, nutritional yeast, and olive oil, and some black pepper. Let's put that baby up there. Gonna add a little bit of salt. It calls for 3/4 of a teaspoon, so I'll use half a teaspoon. And just cut everything back a little bit. And I'm going to be starting the machine and then adding the oil through the top. And as we start getting everything blended well, then we'll start to add nutritional yeast and some pepper. Okay, let's see how we do. Put it on pulse and go on low. We need more basil. Alright, my dears. Yeah, take a lot of these little ones. I want this to be nice and green. Oh, it smells so good. Let's go again. And now I'm going to start drizzling in a little olive oil. Okay, there we go. So a little bit more. And now, put it on low. Alright, it's quite green. This is when you would add the cheese. I'm going to be adding about a third of a cup of nutritional yeast. I'm just going to be adding a bit at a time. That's going to absorb some of the olive oil. I'm going to pulse. Take a taste. Needs to be blended longer. It's pretty good. It's a lot of garlic. But we're going to blend it very, very well now. I think it has plenty of oil. The salt is good. A little bit more basil. More time. Oh my goodness, this thing is so loud. It's probably outlawed. Blasting my ears especially because I'm monitoring the audio through these microphones, which are turned up very loud. Okay. Let's try one more. A little tasty. It's much smoother. Alright, well that's a little thick, but for pizza, I think it's going to be just fine because as it heats up, that oil is going to spread out a little bit too, so. I love my Vitamix. I love it for smoothies and soups and for making big batches of things. But for small things, this little Cuisinart is awesome, even if it is really loud. Because the food processor is so much easier to clean. So here's our pesto. It's very green. It's very rich, very thick. But we're going to spread it out on that pizza, and it's going to be awesome. Nice and fresh. And I've got this one ready. I don't think we even need any pepper on there, but we'll taste it again right before we're ready to use it. All right, well done. Thank you so much for helping me. Oh, and let's take a look at these babies. A little puffier, resting well. So, why don't I take a momentary break, check my batteries in this camera, and I will be right back. So, now we have our pesto, our tomatoes, our dough balls, and the non-stick foil. My non-Italian secret weapon. Well, it took forever for the battery to charge, but I'm back. So, let's get the first pizza. At this point, I'm going to do a little dab of olive oil on my hands. Just enough to tip out. Grown into each other. Okay. I don't want to disturb the edges. So what I need is a little bit of a crust on the outside. It's just barely touching the palm of my hand. There's a little bit of oil on it. And I'm just stretching. You see that? So the middle is getting thinner, but I'm not disturbing the little crust. Stretch, stretch, stretch. This. And then on the foil. Stretch, stretch it out. Just lifting and stretching it from the middle. I'll do things right there. And just fold it back in. Like so. Okay. Uh-oh, another hole. This is what happens if you let a cat take a nap on your dough, okay? It's still going to be absolutely delicious. And one thing with cooking, if you want to get good, you have to roll with the punches. Just no sweat, man. I laugh at myself so much when I'm cooking. This looks very good. It's very crinkly. So I'm letting the oven reheat because I turned it down while I was waiting for the battery to recharge. So we're going to do this one. It's going to be the margherita pizza. So I'm going to take a little bit of beautiful oil and drizzle just a tiny bit. Let's see how thin I can get this to drizzle. Just drops. There. Now I'm going to use a spoon. Some of that beautiful thick sauce. And just circles, just spread it from the middle, just lightly to the edge and not on the crust, unlike me. Good. Then I'm going to take one of these tomatoes, nice and squishy, and just make some rough slices. Yeah, very juicy. You don't really need that much liquid. This is why it's important to have a very hot oven before you even try to do anything. Because if there's too much liquid, you won't get a nice crunchy crust. Alright, oh yes, we're going to make the margherita with the tomatoes. Like that. And then we're going to put the cheese. Okay. put this back in the refrigerator until the last minute because it helps to make it more solid, easier to cut. So I'm just going to make some petals, not too thick. Get that between the tomatoes. That. That. This one's a little short. Do one more. Do one nice flower petal. Oops, that one came out messy. One nice flower petal of cheese per serving. 6 little servings. And then I'm going to put on the basil between. Leave it overlapping with a big leaf there. And here. And here. One here. And one here. Nice. Take off this extra cheese here. So, once the temperature is back up, this will be very easy to just lift and bring into the oven and place on the pizza stone. So we can also add a little bit of seasoning here, a little bit of salt, tiny drizzle of olive oil. Beautiful. Pizza number 1. Ready to go in the oven. Let's see where the temperature's at. We are at 400. Alright. Let's get the other pizza ready too. This one might just move over to the side. Now we'll be ready for pizza number 2. Pesto. I use my thumbs to just pull from the middle where it's the thickest to the outside of the circle. Turning it as I go, using the weight of the dough to pull it down and not bothering the crust until it gets pretty thin. can almost see through it, but don't rip it. Like I did on the last one. And when it's nice and loose, stretched, lay it down, and a little more. And just inside the crust. There we go. Nice crust all the way around. And again for this one with pesto, it has plenty of olive oil, so we're not going to put anything down. Give this a stir. Alright. Take a spoon of it, put it in the middle. Just work it to the outside, stretch it out. It doesn't need to be thick at all because it's super strong. Garlic and pine nuts, olive oil, basil, and salt, and nutritional yeast to give it a little bit of a cheese background. Just a little bit more. Trust me, less is more with these pizzas because the dough is such a star. You don't want to overwhelm it with too many toppings. And trust me, I'm the queen of extra toppings. I love mushrooms, bell pepper, onion, olives, more cheese, you know. So, but this is such a delicious flavor, such a good balance. So I wouldn't use more than that for sure. And for this one, because it is pretty rich, I'm going to shred the cheese. We'll see how well it shreds. Let's try. I don't want to handle it. Okay. This is a big shredder, so it should be okay. Oh yeah, beautiful. Shreds just like mozzarella. The occasional blob that falls off. Okay. Let's see. Out to the side. Get the last bits off of this. And there's a few bigger pieces here that I'm not going to waste, so we'll just have a few little blobs on here as well. Because I said so. There are traditions which have been broken here, absolutely. But this is going to be very good. Alright. Now we have our 2 pizzas ready. All set and ready to go in the oven. This one's going to be rich and full of flavor. And this one is going to be a little more subtle, a little lighter, and a beautiful tomato flavor. Mmm. Cannot wait. I've been waiting for 2 days for this. And to be honest with you, I tried making this last week as well. And I did something wrong because the dough never rose. It was very dense, but because I made it with the imported flour, I just made it into sort of like almost like a French bread pizza, and I ate it anyway. But this is the one that I wanted to make for you. Absolutely beautiful. Okay, let's check the temperature. All right, we are ready. So I am going to walk this pizza over, slide it onto the pizza stone, and set the timer for 6 minutes. It's probably going to take a little bit longer because this is not a pizza oven, but I'm going to check on it for sure at 6 minutes because I want to make sure that nice golden color comes up and that when I look underneath that it's starting to get crispy and a little bit golden brown as well. So here I go. Okay, that was a good landing. I didn't drop anything. And I'm going to go set the timer. I'll be back. Alright, so here is our delicious pizza margherita. Nice and small, although if it hadn't have been squished by cats, I would have been able to do a little bit more with it to make it a little bigger all the way around, but I think that it's cooked perfectly. Underneath is crispy and golden. Can't really tell. And the cheese really melted in and oozed all the way around the tomatoes. Looks very, very good. So now I'm going to put the pesto pizza in and set the timer again. Because the temperature wasn't completely up, it took about, I would say, I think it was 11 minutes to get this finished. So let's see how this one goes. And on to the pizza stone. Okay, setting the timer again. Oops. This time I'm going to set it at 5:55. I like to do that with numbers. I always have to do multiples or a run of numbers. Alright, so that should be about halfway if this one is similar to the last one. And then, oh my goodness, it's going to be time to cut these babies up and take a good bite. Can't wait. Okay, see you in a minute. Okay, finally. So this beauty has been waiting. It's already cooled off, ready to be cut. Look at that. That cheese melted beautifully. Oh, a little bit of crispy on the basil. Delicious. It came out much thicker than I expected and smaller, but it's a little more Sicilian style. That's okay. It's going to be absolutely phenomenal. And maybe this is what happens when you let the cat knead the dough. So, this is the pesto. Just came out of the oven. This one is nice and crunchy as well. golden brown, and underneath, ooh, pretty hot, is nice and crispy and brown. That is going to be delicious. And you can see the little blobs of cheese are kind of still intact. So if you like it that way, you could do more slices on top. I'm looking forward to this. Let's give this a little slicing. It should crack through the crust. Success. Not a very sharp wheel. Well, since this is a small one, I'm only going to cut it into 4. Beautiful. There you have it. My little Italian parsley plate. So towards the middle it's quite soft because of the tomato, the sauce, and the liquid. So let's try this one. Oh, here it comes. Oh, is that looking good? You take the first bite. Okay, let's try this. Wowie wow. So delicious. Wow, that was so good. All right, let's try this other one. This one looks really good too. All right, let's hear it. Nice and crisp. Small pieces. That's okay. Oh, that looks really good too. Would you like a piece? Here we go. Yeah, I love pesto. Pesto. So, we have the competition of the North and the South. On the west side of Italy, we have Naples, represented by the margherita pizza. From the southwest of Italy, representing the northwest, from Genoa, the pesto pizza. Pizza alla pesto. Pesto alla genovese. Oh, yeah. I think they're both complete winners. I love both of them. I cannot pick a favorite. But let's try this one. That got very nice and crispy all the way through. Almost like a flatbread pizza. And the cheese is really creamy. So when you bite into it, it sort of coats the top of your mouth like regular melted cheese would. Very, very good. Wow. The pesto is very rich, but not too much. It's perfect with this dough. Wow. Okay, here's the rest of your plate. Why don't you just make yourself comfortable, and when you're ready for seconds, come on back. You know which one is your favorite, the pesto or the margarita. And I have some wine here. This is one of my favorites. It's a Cabernet Sauvignon, and I don't always drink such a rich wine, but this particular one I really like. It's from J. Lore, but specifically 7 Oaks. This is in beautiful Paso Robles, California, Central Coast. Beautiful vineyards there, and I've done my fair share of camping up there and visiting the vineyards, and I don't always find this locally, the 7 Oaks Cabernet, but when I do, I get some. Would you like some? Goes nice with the pizza. There you are. Oh, so lovely. Very Italian. All right, ready to sit down and get busy on the rest of this pizza?